Too many entrepreneurs are making decisions in the dark. They're guessing on pricing, maybe avoiding taxes until last minute, and missing opportunities on building real lasting wealth. But what if you could start thinking like a financial strategist instead of just reacting? What if the biggest thing holding your business back isn't the revenue, but it's actually the confusion around your numbers? Today, I'm joined by Ryan Otto, the president and owner of Accent Financial Services, a financial expert on a mission to turn confusion into confidence for small business owners and entrepreneurs. With over 20 years of experience spanning from scrappy Main Street businesses to Fortune 500 strategy, Ryan's developed practical systems like tax smithing to help business owners reduce tax burden, build smarter systems, and create resilient, scalable brands. Ryan's approach blends real-world experience, simple framework, and honest storytelling to make finance feel actually accessible and actionable. If you've ever felt unsure about your numbers, you've maybe avoided looking at your finances, or you've wondered how to build a business that actually supports your long-term goals, this conversation will hopefully give you the clarity and the tools to move forward with confidence. Ryan, welcome to the show. Can you start by telling us a little bit about you and Accent Financial Services?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in tax and accounting for 26 years now, which is kind of crazy. Accent Financial Services has been around even longer. It's been around for about 40 years. I bought the company about 3 years ago, a little more than that now. And really what we do is we have accounting, we have business, and we have taxes. And in the accounting world, we do every, bookkeeping all the way up to people outsourcing their entire accounting department to us. In the business world, we do fractional CFO services. We help people start businesses and close businesses and all of that kind of stuff. And then in the tax space, we help people with tax preparation and we deal with IRS notices and stuff like that. But the real important stuff that we're doing these days is called tax smithing and it's tax strategy. And it's an amazing thing. And everybody who has a business should sit down and talk about their tax strategy.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm excited to dive into that more. A lot of my listeners are entrepreneurs or small business owners, so I feel like they'll find a lot of value in that conversation. Since you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, are there any common financial blind spots that you see that they have, and what can they do today to kind of start addressing those?
Yeah, 100%. One of the biggest things that I see all the time is people not taking care of their books.
Okay.
Never looking at bookkeeping. We have people who have come in and they're like, yeah, I haven't done bookkeeping or taxes for the last 3 years, pretty much since I started my business. And because I didn't know what to do when I was starting, and now it's been so long that I don't know how to fix it anyways. But not looking at your books because, honestly, your P&L and your balance sheet really tells you what your business is doing. And you can't have that if you don't track things from your bank account and, look at your expenses and look at your income and have a real conversation with yourself about those things.
Yeah, that's a great point. I also feel like too, and for many of my listeners, they might relate, it can feel very overwhelming to a lot of small business owners because you're wearing so many hats when you start a business. And I mean, I'm sure you know this too, as you've bought a business. The tasks that you may not really enjoy doing kind of get pushed down on the to-do list. Learning more about your company and how you can come in different capacities is really helpful. I'm excited to dive into that a little bit more. You've mentioned that it's important to think like a financial strategist as a business owner, but what does that really mean to someone?
Well, so there's one thing of looking at operating your business and, how do I make this job happen? Or, you're going to go start a new project with somebody and you say, okay, well, I need to have this thing, and then we're going to talk about this, and then I'm going to deploy this, and then we're going to have these conversations. And, so operationally being able to understand how your business works is great. But that's completely different from being able to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to grow this product because it's doing the best for me. And I'm going to think about doing this thing. And then a year from now, we're going to change into this other thing that I want to be doing that makes a lot more money than these things that I'm working on right now. And, it's so easy to get wrapped up in all of the minutia of daily life that you don't get around to thinking about those things. And you just keep going with your day to day. And, that stuff is important because where are you going? What are your goals? And, how is your business factoring into your life? And it's tough to do that without sitting down and really thinking through what your plans are and your strategy is.
Right. So if there's a small business owner listening and, they're approaching their tax planning, how can they be a little bit more proactive instead of reactive? I think, especially as we're approaching tax day, I feel like this is coming up for a lot of people. So what are some things that maybe next year they're going to get ahead of it and they could start doing this year?
Yeah. Well, so, for business owners, there's so many different tools out there because one of the things that the federal government can't do is run businesses, and it needs people like your listeners to do that part of the economy, right? And in doing that, they make lots and lots and lots of incentives for business owners to do certain things. But it's not really, water cooler talk of, hey, I tried this new tax strategy the other day, and
Right.
next year it's going to save me $3,000. Like that's not a thing that people talk about, right? But so I would say, if you're gonna start thinking about those things, sit down and talk to somebody who has an idea about what many of those strategies are. Because there's so many, there's little things that you can do that add up to a lot of money at the end of the day. And, pick one and try it and move on to the next one, because you got to start somewhere.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So can you talk to us a little bit more about tax smithing and maybe any other financial systems that entrepreneurs should know about in order to scale sustainably for their business?
Yeah. So tax smithing, it's something that we've come up with, and it has a whole bunch of different pieces to it. So there's a real tax piece where we go back and we specifically look at your taxes for the last couple of years, and we use that to create a couple year forward strategy about taxes. But we also do what's called a living blueprint, and that's designed to look at your entire financial life. Because at the end of the day, any business that you own, it's passing through to you, and it still really is at the end of the day. So helping people understand, where does your business fit into your life, and how is it helping you to do these things? And how to, kind of take some strategies like, hey, maybe we need to have a business entity here, or maybe you should do this thing, or maybe you need a 401k plan, because business owners don't often think about retirement. They're like, yeah, 401k, that's something you do in corporate America, right? But there's lots and lots of those things that you can implement, and you need the right frame of mind and understanding of those things to be able to do that. So in that particular thing, we sit down and we make a blueprint for people. We diagram out your life, and then we talk about how to do it. We also have things like, we've got a kids program that is fantastic. How to pay your kids.
Wow.
For business owners who have kids, amazing.
Yeah.
And it's the beginning of generational wealth, and you can do it right now. I mean, we have some math. If you were to pay your kids only $5,000 a year between the ages of 13 and 18, and never do anything else with it, and stick that money into a Roth IRA, by the time they're ready to retire, it's worth $4.7 million. $5,000 for just a few years of
Right.
paying your kids to do stuff in your business. I mean, some of these strategies it's mind-boggling what it looks like, but you got to start it now, right?
If you're looking to spoil a furry friend at home, we've got just the thing. Check out Binks Ties Luxury Pet Bow Ties. Handcrafted, elegant, and designed to fit most collars. Every purchase helps shelter pets in need, so your pup or cat can look dapper while giving another animal a second chance. Because every wandering whisker deserves to be dapper. Unleash elegance at www.binksties.co. You're the first one that's come on the show to talk about taxes, which is something that a lot of people don't love to talk about. And you're putting it in a very interesting perspective. It's about being proactive and getting these things set up ahead of time so that you don't feel overwhelmed, because I think it can snowball for people where they put it away, it's tucked away, they don't want to think about it. I don't want to think proactively or like how I can actually make the most of it. In terms of coming up with your strategy with people, if they run a business, or maybe they're thinking about starting a business, because we do have a lot of people on the show that are just like looking to dip their toes in, but they're not yet ready to leave the corporate world. Do you have anything set up to help them? If they're like, I have this great business idea, I've always wanted to go for it, finally feel like I'm ready to go for it, but I'm like a little bit overwhelmed about what this would mean for me financially. What does that look like when they work with your business?
Yeah, so I love working with people who are just getting everything started.
Mm-hmm.
And, it actually is a really important thing. Like, don't leave your W-2 job until you're ready to do that and you have some stuff moving. But it's easier than ever to start a business right now and get things going while
Hmm.
you're doing other stuff. I mean, the power of AI
Yeah.
is phenomenal. And being able to set things up and have everything moving even without you being there or just putting in your 3, 4, 5 hours a night trying to make things work. Yeah, I love talking about that kind of stuff with people. And when you're at the point that you're like, okay, I want to have a business, I need to have this protected. The first step is get yourself an LLC
Hmm.
and keep a little protective bubble around that business so that it doesn't affect your life. And so step one, get an LLC. And when we sit down and do that with people, actually it's like an hour-long meeting. Okay, we built your LLC. Here's what it means.
Hmm.
Here's what you have to do. Here's the responsibilities of all of this stuff. You have to check in with the state every so often. You have to check in with the IRS every so often. And by the way, it's really important for you to understand your financials. And if you need to have a business plan or you want to do, financial analysis and projections, we can sit down and help you through that stuff. I think in the last year, we probably helped about 30 people start new businesses.
Wow, that's so exciting.
And it's super exciting. And sometimes it's for things that you just, like, you didn't even know that that was a thing, right?
Yeah.
We had a client who he is facilitating hunting trips. So
Wow,
he
cool.
coordinates getting gear together from these people, getting land where they can actually go
Neat.
do the hunting trip and getting the people together and he puts it all together. And I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing, you know?
It can feel a little bit overwhelming to get started, but if you've had that idea for a long time, it's important to just go for it. And like you said, you don't necessarily need to leave your W-2 right away. But you can work on it. I don't want to say spare time. I know everybody's really busy, but after work, on the weekends, something you're passionate about,
Yeah.
you can make it work. It's important to work with experts like you, so that way you can kind of figure out the best strategy to go about it, building the business plan, thinking proactively, thinking about how much money do you want your business to bring in each month, or how, like, what's your goal for your business. That's something that people don't really want to think about, but if you think about it ahead of time, it can really help move some things forward. So really interesting
Yeah,
that you.
yeah, absolutely. Like, what are the goals, right?
Mhm.
Because for a lot of people, you're just getting started, and you just think to yourself, like, okay, I'm pretty good at this. I bet I can make some extra money on the side.
Mhm.
So that's not a goal. That's just I want to do a thing and
Right.
see what happens. And I don't know. It's Napoleon's plan, right? First you show up and then you see what happens.
When it comes to the business side of things, there's so many areas of the business. We talk a lot about marketing and branding on this show, but I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't really want to wear all of the hats. So, what would it look like for a small business in that capacity? And sorry, I know these are like bonus questions, but just thinking about them as we go. If there's a small business owner and they're not a huge corporation, what does that look like for them to work with your business? Would you come in as like a fractional CFO kind of deal, or like how does that work?
Well, yeah, I mean, fractional CFO, I think, is usually when you start having things actually moving and
Hmm.
you're like, okay, I need to take it up to the next level to be able to figure out like, how do I grow this and, what levers do I need to pull to get some funding to be able to do the next phase of this stuff. That's
Right.
usually how I think about the fractional CFO stuff. For somebody who is just getting started, for the most part, it's usually about let's just get your books taken care of and let's sit down once a month, once a quarter, whatever it is, and really go through your P&L and talk about, hey, so right now you have all of these business expenses. What is that doing for you? You're trying to make money here. This is what's happening over here. Here's what that looks like from a benchmark against your industry. So, how much money are you spending on payroll compared
Hmm.
to how much most companies who are doing what it is you're trying to do, what are they spending on payroll?
Right.
And we do that just as like one-off meetings where we'll sit down with somebody and say, tell us what's going on and let's dive into your numbers and make it tell a story.
You broke it down in a way that makes it seem a lot more simple for people. I like that you mentioned too calls as needed, getting everything set up with an expert like yourself, just really helps to simplify the whole process. I think there are a lot of tools out there, and I'm curious to hear your opinion on those too.
Yeah, well, and not being a person in the marketing world, I can
Mhm.
give you a similar example from my side. Because when I was taking everything over, one of the things that I said, okay, I don't know much about this world, but I know I'm going to need a social media presence.
Mhm.
So I hired somebody to just make stuff and put it out there. And it was a great idea at the time, and it started building the brand and having the presence and everything. But it wasn't anything that anybody was going to engage in. And I
Okay.
didn't I didn't know what that should have looked like at the time. And so
Mhm.
I got started, and it was enough to get started and have stuff out there because now we have this much longer history. I mean, it took a year and a half before we started putting out, better content of things that people would actually be interested in looking at. And so I see the same thing coming my direction from people who are like, I don't know what to do with the finance world, right? And maybe they started up by getting QuickBooks connected and it has all of their bank stuff, and then they're like, well, I don't know what to do after that part. But I took the first step,
Right.
and I know I was supposed to do something with this stuff. I just don't know what to follow it up with or how to turn that into something that's going to help. So yeah, I first of all get started. And if it's
Yeah.
some kind of AI tool that's going to help you do it, or if it's a QuickBooks, or if it's a company that they're like, yeah, we'll throw you, 2 hours a month and answer questions, get started.
Hmm.
But you don't know what you don't know. And that
Right.
might not come up until you're really trying to get some answers and you say, okay, well, what I need from this relationship now is not, give me my financial statements or categorize my bank account. What I need now is to have somebody help me understand what all of this means. And so there's all kinds of financial products out there to help you do things like that. The biggest one is QuickBooks Online. So that's what a lot of people use to get everything started. But there's so many things. They all do basically the same stuff. There's 50 different companies that can help do payroll for you, and there really is any number of things. The most important thing though, get started.
Get started. Yeah, that's good advice. That's probably a really intimidating step for people, but if you could just try and understand it, there's plenty of people that will be there to help you if you want to reach out and work with you as well. So, as we wrap up this episode, if someone is feeling overwhelmed by their finances, what is a practical step that they can take this week to start to feel like they're gaining a little bit more clarity and control?
Yeah, so as a business owner myself, and I have, I think, 7 businesses right now.
Wow, that's
There
awesome.
can be a lot of noise, and there's always so many things that you have to juggle. And you're like, hey, what's the priority here? What's the priority there? For me, it's write it down. Write it down, put it on your calendar, take 20 minutes and think through all of the stuff that you need to do. And there really is like this, people's brains work in a bunch of different ways. So you've got to find the thing that's right for you to try to stay organized. But maybe that's, having a to-do list, and maybe you put it on your phone, or maybe you try to organize a bunch of stuff on your calendar so you can take a look at it. But spend a little bit of time to think through all of the stuff and decide, do I need to do all of this right now, or can I do some of it later? And what are your most important things? I saw it was a podcast that I watched, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago. And it was essentially talking about you're only going to get 1 or 2 big things done in any given day.
Yeah.
Don't plan on getting a whole bunch of big things done.
Right.
Maybe things are important, but you can't plan it out like that because it's just not gonna happen. So, so you make a plan. And if you have some things, you're like, that's gonna take me the whole day. Okay, so that's your thing. And maybe you get 2 little things done later on in the day, but make your plan. But it's tough. It's tough to have all of it in your brain
Right.
and think that you can make a plan out of it by, connecting all of the spider webs and everything and seeing what needs to happen. Get it out of your brain and put it into something.
Yeah, that's great advice. You mentioned only having 1 or 2 things to get done for the day. One thing we've talked about recently is making sure that you're getting done the 1 to 2 things that are actually moving the needle in your business. People know the things that they really should do that make a huge difference, but sometimes those get bumped down on the to-do list because it's maybe not your favorite thing to do. I think for a lot of people in business, like maybe that's the sales calls that they don't want to make. They kind of get pushed down on the list. Or for some people, it might be looking at their taxes. It's a little overwhelming. So focusing on those 1 to 2 things. For some people, they don't want to look at any of the financial side of things because it stresses them out. But by not looking, it's actually creating more of a monster. By the time you actually looked and you had an idea or you knew what you needed to do for your business each month, it helps to make things so much easier. It just alleviates you of so much stress too, I think, once you have a better understanding. So that's a really great point there.
I mean, they say the thing that kills your business is the thing that you're not paying attention to. So
Okay, yeah, that's
if
true.
that's sales, and that, that's where you're going to go down. If it's accounting, that's where you're going to go down. But yeah, it's so easy to not do the things that you don't want to do. Like when you're your own boss and you get to decide what you're doing today, it's really, really easy to say, I don't want to do that. And then a day goes by and a week goes by and 2 years go by, and you're like, I really probably should have been doing that. But
Right.
in the financial world, one of the things that I think makes people a little bit nervous too is it's a really personal kind of a thing. And I know when we get people who come in that haven't done anything for multiple years, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And it can be really stressful all on its own. And to be able to sit down with somebody and get something started on that and get that stress off of your chest, people leave here feeling so much better than when they walked in with all of their problems. And that's one of the things that I think
Yeah.
is just it's super important. Find the people that are going to help deal with the things that stress you out.
One thing that's come up recently too is knowing when to outsource different areas of your business. Being a business owner, if there's things you don't want to do, then you tend to push them off. But instead of just pushing them off, maybe outsource it to someone that knows what they're doing. And that way it alleviates that stress as well. You brought up how, money is emotional. That's a side of business that we haven't really talked about too much on this podcast. We talk a lot about the marketing side of things, getting the business set up, being an entrepreneur. And, there's so many emotions that come with being an entrepreneur too. It's personal. If someone has pushed off, their business expenses or developing a business plan or, deciding where they want to go with their business, sometimes they don't want to confront that or to tell people that. It must be really rewarding in a role like yours where you are able to kind of take those, alleviate stress for people, make them feel better about, the path forward and kind of just clarify all of that for them. So that must be a really rewarding part of your job.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Good luck to everybody out there starting your businesses.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you'll walk away with a clearer understanding of your finances, a smarter approach to taxes, and practical ways to keep building a business that's not just profitable, but sustainable. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Ryan. And until next time, keep showing up, keep creating, and keep building your story.